and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where I'm going to be answering some of your questions, and in some detail too. Think of this today like a sort of mini podcast in a way, because the big focus is going to be on the UEFA Champions League from Barcelona's perspective, and effectively what we can expect in this season's competition. What should our expectations be, and what role is Xavi going to play in all of this, with emphasis really on what we have to prove as a team in the UCL. There's lots of discussion coming up for you, lots of debate indeed. I hope you're going to enjoy it. So let's get to it. Because indeed, guys, when I was asking you there over on my community section what questions you had about Barca right now, what were you wondering about? So many questions came back about the Champions League, and especially they're emphasising what realistic expectations should we have this season. Like, come on, what can we actually expect in the competition? Because look, as Barcelona fans, naturally, when you ask us about the Champions League, the very first thought that enters our mind, even without thinking, we will tell you we want to win it. It's as simple as that. We want to win the Champions League. We're desperate to lift that trophy again, and we want it more than anything else right now, and we have done for a while, and that is certainly not going to change this season. But is that a realistic target? I think that's what people are wondering about right now. Realistically, should we expect to be challenging for the title? Because speaking from a rational point of view right now, looking back at the way that Barca have performed in the UCL over the past few seasons, we were knocked out at the group stage last season, we were knocked out at the group stage the season before, and the season before that, we were comfortably eliminated in the round of 16 by Paris Saint-Germain. So let's be clear, we haven't been good in the Champions League. Our track record over the past few seasons would indicate that we're not really ready to be challenging for the title. But this is the interesting part right now, because in those years that I've just mentioned, just because we've gone out there in the group stage back to back, it doesn't suddenly make it our level. That's not who we want to be. It's not as though, that's what we expect now because we've gone out 2 years in a row. It would just be an achievement just to get through the group stage. I don't feel that way personally. That is not where we aspire to be, and we can't just lower our ambitions right now. We can't just lower our expectations based on the failures from the past few years, because we want to be up there again. And of course, the first step towards that has to be get out the group stage. That is the very first thing we have to make sure that we do, especially with the group that we're in. I think we would all admit there's no excuses now. There is absolutely no excuse here for Barca to get knocked out of the group stage again. The minimum is the knockout stage, and many people have been asking the question, look, if Xavi was to go out though in the group stage, if Barca were to be eliminated again, would that be the end for Xavi? Would he have to be sacked there if Barca suffered another humiliation in the competition? And I mean, to be honest, guys, from the club's perspective here, that would be absolutely unthinkable to go out again at the group stage. I think from every single point of view there, of course, from a sporting point of view, the players that we have, we are not going to want to be playing in the Europa League again. And also, don't forget, guys, from a financial point of view, we cannot keep affording to be missing out on Champions League money from getting through to the knockout stages. We can't keep activating a lever every season and going on more and more friendlies just to make up for that lost revenue. We expect to get there, and believe me, we have to, and everyone will be aware of that. But then the big question is, okay, if we get out of the group stage, when we expect to get out of the group stage, well, what happens then? What expectations can we have? Should we say, well, Barca should reach the quarterfinal, we should reach the semi-final, we should go all the way to the final? What should we expect from this team right now? And to be honest, guys, I wouldn't jump in and I wouldn't actually say, oh, we have to get to the semis or else we got a big problem, because I don't really think you can anticipate what the Champions League can throw. Sometimes very, very good teams can get knocked out early on by a difficult draw from an unlucky decision, and sometimes actually a team who hasn't been convincing can go deep into the tournament just based on luck at times in the Champions League. And so what I would actually ask for here is not a quarter-final, not a semi-final, not a final. I would simply like to see from Barca this season, and the ambition that I would have is that we go out on the biggest stage in the knockout rounds and we impose ourselves again. I hope that we come up against a top team in a really high-pressured situation in the knockout stages, and that we show again, the first time in a long time, that we can match them and go beyond them. We can prove to ourselves that we can do it, because we haven't seen that in Europe over the past few years. That has been the most embarrassing thing that I would say about Barca in Europe in recent times. The fact that in the big moments, in the big matchups, we don't stand up. Time and time and time again, there's a big game in Europe. Europe concerning Barca up against a big opponent. The stakes are high, the expectation is there, because Barca fans will always believe, and we always have believed in our team no matter what. And how many times have we been left disappointed in Europe recently? And that is what we have to overcome. We have to show again that we can do it, that we can compete, that we can match the best teams, and that is what now brings me on to talk about Xavi. Because of course, guys, over these past few weeks there since the start of the season, and even actually going back to the end of last season in patches there has been a lot of debate about Xavi, about the performance of the team, about the level that we're seeing right now, lots of talk about the future, and actually about really whether Xavi is the man to bring the Champions League back to Barca. So we know that he could do it as a player. We have absolutely no complaints there. But as a coach now, is he the man for the job in Europe? And I think the key point here for Xavi, it is the Champions League. That for me now is becoming the make or break point when it comes to Xavi's future, because let me just say, I think Xavi's La Liga title success last season was absolutely outstanding. There is no getting around that, guys. It was a hugely important title for the team, for the club, to feel as though, again, okay, we can compete, we can win titles, we can be up there amongst the best. It was very, very special to be league champions again, and he deserves so much credit for achieving that there so soon into his coaching career. But he knows as well as anyone, domestic success will only be enough for so long. At some point here, we have to challenge in Europe again. That is the expectation at Barca, and he knows that. Like I say, he's been here so many years of his career, he understands the expectations. And ultimately, Xavi is a young coach. He's somebody who is still learning, especially in Europe, up against teams from other countries, other leagues. It's not easy. You are constantly having to adapt, and I think Xavi has shown that he is still learning, because since Xavi has arrived as coach at Barca, admittedly, he was thrown in at the deep end there in his first UCL group stage campaign. He drew against Benfica, he lost against Bayern, we were out. Koeman, of course, had the difficulties before that, and we were out at the group stage. But then last season, to finish again behind Bayern, 2 defeats again against Bayern Munich, we finished, of course, behind Inter, which was absolutely unacceptable, and the only convincing Champions League performances that we've seen so far under Xavi, they were against Victoria Pilsen, and that's literally it. That is all that we have seen. The 2 games against Pilsen, those have been the only convincing displays, and that is a concern. Because look, it's not even as though Barca here under Xavi imposed ourselves in the Europa League. We didn't do that either. Apart from maybe one game against Napoli that we won very, very well and in a convincing manner away, we didn't see that again. We were unconvincing against Galatasaray. We lost in the way that we did, of course, against Eintracht Frankfurt. We were outpowered, outpaced in that game, along with all the nonsense with the fans. And then, last season, knocked out by Man United, losing there at Old Trafford. And of course we can say, with the Europa, the motivation wasn't there, it's not where we wanted to be, but those are big games again. The games against United, those were high-pressured games, big games, and again, we did not stand up. We did not prove that we were able to overcome that challenge. And that is why, that is the overall point here, guys, is why I feel this season, this Champions League campaign, for the whole team, for the whole club, and especially for Xavi, it's really important. It is so decisive now to just prove what we can do, to prove here that Xavi on the European stage can tactically set us up here to compete with the best teams, can come up with a plan to see Barca flourish in Europe again. Because I said about the group stage there, I don't just want to get through that, find a way through, scrape a few victories and make sure that we get to the knockout stages. In that group stage campaign, I want convincing wins. I want to see a team here who are full of confidence again in Europe, who really can put goals past opponents, can really put teams to the sword. We have to send out a message. We have to start telling teams around Europe again that Barca are back, that we are a force to be reckoned with, that you don't want to come up and play us, you don't want to be in the same game as us, because we can hurt you. And I want to see bravery from Xavi. I want to see with his team selections, with his tactics. I don't want him to overthink things. I don't want him to go into his shell in Europe. A few times in La Liga, we've seen Xavi put together good performances, really good results, some good team selections and tactics at times, and then sometimes it feels as though come the biggest games in Europe, we retreat, we sort of go back into our shell, and we're a little bit scared of the outcome perhaps. We can't show that. We cannot show nerves. We cannot show fear. We have to have belief here in the players that we have, who are top quality. We've got a good squad. We've got good players. We are well equipped now to head into Europe and challenge again. I'm not saying that we'll go out and win it. I'm not saying that we should expect to win it, but I'm just saying that in a a big game, in a big matchup, when the stakes are high, we want Barca to do us proud. We want to stand up again and say, that's my team. That is what we've worked towards. And at long last, Barca are back. That is the ambition. And I do think right now, guys, given the Champions League is not too far away from kicking off now, just over 2 weeks' time, it all gets underway. It's exciting. These are the kinds of days here that we want to look forward to. We want it to be underway. We want to take part. We want to show what we can do. And I think it is a really interesting debate right now amongst Barca fans. But what can we achieve? And that is what I want to know in the comments down below. What are you feeling right now? Do you believe that Barca could go all the way? Do you think that could be some sort of realistic possibility? Or do you still see limitations? Do you feel as though we could get over those, we could come through those as the season goes on? And what do you hope for this season in the Champions League? If there's one thing that you're really desperately wanting to see, let me know down below exactly what that is. And we'll be talking much more about the Champions League, about this team, lots more on the way. There's plenty more questions to answer, guys, and I will get to them. Thank you indeed for getting involved, for watching here today, and as always, for leaving your thoughts. I hope you did enjoy this style of video. Please feel free to leave some feedback on that too. I will see you soon. But until next time, as always, Visca el Barça.